ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ महागणाधिपतये नमः। Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to this 12th session of Viveka Chodamani class. Today, we are going to study the identity between Brahman and Jagat in the next set of shlokas. Before that, Dr. Divakar will give us a quick recap of previous class. Divakar sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I has twofold meanings. One is the common meaning called Vachyartha, where I means body-mind complex. This is the Laukika I. The second is the most important meaning of I, which is the Lakshartha, which is the refined Paramarthika I. From the verses 61 to 65, this refined I, Shodhita Aham Padartha, is elaborated. This section is the extended answer to the 7th question on Atma Anatma Viveka. This is a very subtle topic and requires a repeated Shravanam and Mananam. In the verse 61, this refined I, Atma, is described as Swayam Jyotihi. This consciousness principle is self-evident. It doesn't need any other source for its sentience. This is a profound concept. Panchakosha Vilakshanaha and Avastatraya Sakshi. It is a witness of Kosha Panchakam and 3 states of existence, but it does not get influenced by their attributes. It is Nirvikaraha, it doesn't undergo changes. It is blotless, Niranjanaha, and it is of the nature of the eternal bliss, Sadananda. This Atma should be known, Savigneya, how Swatmatvena Vipaschita, as I myself without any objectification, using a purified mind and a subtle intellect. Without the mind purity, these are just the bunch of words. In the verse 62, Shishya asks a very relevant question, a doubt that most of us have. If I negate everything in the body as anatma, as mithya, what I experience is only blankness. It is only nothingness, as it happens in a deep sleep. So he asks, "O Guru, do you mean to say that the blankness is Atma and what is to be known is actually nothingness?" And this line of thinking is the basis for Shunyavada of Buddhism. Verses 63 and 64 are seen together. Guru first appreciates the sincere question of student and calls him Vidwan, O intelligent student. Once anatma is systematically negated, it is true that there is nothing to be known as an object, but what we are inquiring about is the subject. Even to reveal the blankness, to reveal the nothingness, you require a revealing principle. This revealing principle is the Atma. Only Atma, the consciousness principle, can reveal even the blankness. Sarve yena anubhuyante yaha swayam na anubhuyate. So the presence or the absence of all the anatma is revealed by the consciousness principle. Proof of Atma is Anatma itself. Just as proof for a camera is the photograph, although the camera is not seen in the photograph. Claim this Atma as I at all times during the wakeful state with a very subtle intellect. Vidhi buddhaya susukshmaya. In the verse 65, Guru further gives the beautiful description of Atma. Samujrambate, Atma shines and stands out at all times across Jagrat, Sushupti and Swapnavastha. It reveals all the changes of the Anatma, but it remains changeless. It transcends the time and space. Atma is Nitya, eternal, and Ananda of the nature of the bliss. Know this Atma by claiming, I am the Atma. With this, Guru completes the analysis of Atma from the individual Vyasti viewpoint in this section. In the verse 66, Atma is seen from the Samashti, macrocosmic viewpoint. Tat Pada Vichara is talked about. Initially, Guru talks about Atma Vichara from the individual's viewpoint, and then Brahma Vichara from the Jagat viewpoint, and then he goes to the third level, which is the Aikya Vichara. Teacher says Brahman is the only truth in the universe. Atma Brahma Abhinatva Vijnanam, the knowledge of oneness between I, the individual self, and the Brahman, the universal self, will lead to Bhava Mokshaya Karanam, freedom from the samsara. Let's continue our study of Viveka Chodamani in this class. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Divakar, for a brilliant summary of the previous class. For those who have studied the 6 verses of the previous class, these 5 minutes will give the essence of the entire previous class. And for those who study class on class, this is the objective of the recap. If you just study the first 5 minutes of each class, you have got the essence of each class. Om Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. Continuing the next 6 verses of the Viveka Chodamani, we have come to that portion which is the essence of all Vedanta. And when the going gets tough, all of us have to tell us that even though whatever these topics that are dealt being are very subtle, by repeated Shravanam, by making a little more effort, we are able to get the essence of all Vedanta. All of us are familiar with this verse from the Kathopanishad, which goes like this: Uttishtata Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhata, which was popularized by Swami Vivekananda. All great masters, they are called the Shrotriya Brahmanishta. Brahmanishta means who are anchored, and Shrotriya is one who is able to communicate their understanding. When they look at us, they see us like a lion among the sheep. And they want to tell us, why don't you wake up to your reality? And all their message is this: arise, awake, approach to the great ones, learn. And why are they repeatedly saying awake? Because according to them, we are still in a form of a nidra, in a form of ignorance or awareness. The whole of Vedanta is a shift from asatoma to sadgamaya, moving towards that which is real. And moving from what? The whole world around me looks absolutely real. But Vedanta says there is a higher level of reality. And whatever we are experiencing is called Mithya. And through Shruti, Yukti, Anubhuti, through various prakriyas that we have gone through, Panchakosha Viveka, Drishya Viveka, Avastha Traya Viveka, Sharira Traya Viveka, which we have done very systematically through the Prakarana Grantha of the Viveka Chodamani, which helps us to wake up from the previous level of reality, very nicely given in what is called the Pratibhasika Satya. When we are dreaming, the dream world is absolutely real as long as we are in dream. We can say it is a dream, and the whole dream disappears into insignificance when we wake up into this level of reality, what is called the transactional reality or the Vyavaharika Satya. But awakened masters say there is one higher level which is called the Paramarthika. The one big distinction is when we wake up from our dream, the dream world and our dream body completely disappears. But our teachers caution us that when you wake up into this level of reality, which is called the Paramarthika, the world continues to be exactly as it is. But your understanding has now become so profound that the world now becomes like a movie in front of you. You see yourself as an observer and the whole world as images, and you see yourself as the Sakshi. And therefore, whatever happens in this world does not affect you as much as it did when you were at the lower level of reality. This is the sum and substance of all Vedanta for a person who has awakened into Paramarthika. When you awaken into the higher level of reality, you realize that this world is of a lower order of reality, and that is because you have discovered the only reality, which is Brahman, and that consciousness within me, because of which I'm able to function, because of which I know everything, is none other than that. That claim that I am that, and all of us right away should not have any sense of feeling any form of self-consciousness to maybe able to make this claim. Initially, let it be like fake it before you make it. Claim that I am that. And the more you claim your true nature, you see that the world is of a lower order of reality. All this comes to us through Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhuti. The Taittiriya Upanishad, which begins, Brahmananda Valli begins in a brilliant manner, which says, Brahmavid apnoti param. The one who knows Brahman attains the highest. And what is that? You realize that your true nature is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. All this is going to be explained in the first verse itself by Dr. Sundar. Later on in these classes, you will realize that the same Upanishad talks of in the Bhrigu the father Varuna tells the son, Yatova imami bhutani jayanti, yena jatani jivanti, O son, I want you to discover that entity because of which all of us have come into being. That which is sustaining all of us, that which into which we all resolve. What is that entity? He tries to tell us what is the cause of the world. In fact, when you come to the cause-effect relationship, God as the cause, then it becomes easier for us to relate. So there are certain dilemmas that we go through, but the more we interact with this, and fortunately we have excellent speakers today. We begin with Dr. Sundar. Over to you, Dr. Sundar, for the first verse.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the first 60 verses of this text, Adi Shankaracharya has answered the 7 questions which the student posed. Now he is coming to the most important topic of this text, the central theme, the Tatparyam, which is Mahavakya Vichara. In the foregone verses up to the verse 65, as a part of this discussion, Adi Shankaracharya described the Tvam Padartha Vichara. What is the essence at the individual level, which is Atma Swarupam. Now, over 8 verses, Adi Shankaracharya is moving to Tat Padartha Vichara. What is the core essence of this creation, of this universe, of this cosmos? As we shall see in the next slide, in this verse, this core essence is being described as Brahman. Brahman is derived from the root word Brihat, the big one. This is not like an adjective, big, bigger, biggest. It is more like a noun, the superlatively big, all-encompassingly big one. Unfortunately, our senses are not tuned to perceive this big one. Therefore, in this verse, Adi Shankaracharya is quoting the Taittiriya Upanishad description. This form of a description is called Swarupa Lakshanam, or direct description of Brahman. This is describing the object in mind in exclusion of everything else, distinguishing it from everything else. So what is the direct description of Brahman? As we shall see in the next slide, this verse describes Brahman as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Satyam Brahma is absolute reality. In our lives, we are used to 2 other forms of reality. One is the waking state, which is the empirical reality, and another is the dream state, which is the subjective reality. Vedanta proclaims both these reality are not really real because they have a dependent existence on this absolute reality. They borrow existence from the absolute reality. Vedanta says this absolute reality alone is intrinsically real, therefore qualifying for the word Satyam. As we shall see in the next slide, Vedanta also describes Satyam Brahma as pure existence with these 5 features which we have often seen. The next direct description of Brahman in this verse, as we see in the next slide, is Jnanam Brahma. By saying Jnanam Brahma, this does not mean Brahman is mere knowledge. Brahman is of the form of all encompassing knowledge, which includes the knower as well as the known. Vedanta describes Jnanam Brahma as pure consciousness, which also has these 5 features which we have often seen. The next pointer or definition of Brahman in this verse, as we see in the next slide, is Anantam Brahma. Brahman is free from 3-fold limitations which any other entity suffers. Brahman does not have space-wise limitation. Therefore, Brahman is here, there, everywhere. Brahman does not suffer the time-wise limitation. Therefore, Brahman is there not just now, later, but all times. Brahman does not suffer from object-wise limitation. Brahman is not just this, that, but everything that is without a second. He is non-dual. The next direct definition, which is there in this verse, as we see in these words, is Vishuddham. Shuddham means Brahman is free from impurities at physical, emotional, intellectual levels. The prefix V means that he is always ever pure. In the description of Satyam, we saw that Brahman as absolute reality is a substratum for the entire expanse of empirical as well as subjective reality. Although such a vast expanse of reality rests on him, he is not in the least sullied or tainted by this. Therefore, he is ever pure. Therefore, also he is Param. He is transcendental. He transcends the entire expanse of reality which is upon him and remains unaffected. He is Asangatvam. Just as the movie screen is unaffected by the happenings on the screen, or the waker is unaffected by the happenings in the dream, he is of a different higher order of reality. The next definition is Swatha Siddham. Brahman is self-evident, self-revealing, without another pramanam to reveal his presence. Brahman is of the form of Nityanandam. He is ungraded, eternal happiness, as against the graded happiness which was described as a part of the description of Anandamaya Kosha. Brahman is described as Ekarasam. All objects have the duality of attribute and substance. Brahman does not suffer from this dichotomy or duality because he is neither an attribute nor a substance. Pratyag Abhinnam. Brahman is not different from my core self. This is a part of the Asipadartha Vichara, which is going to come further in this verse as a part of the overall topic of Mahavakya Vichara. Nirantaram. Brahman always is. He is the undivided whole. Jayati. Brahman stands out, destroying or emerging in such a way that he transcends everything else. Brahman even transcends death. Therefore, the Lord is also called as Mrityunjaya. So these were the abstract descriptions, which is the Swarupa Lakshanam. So often it might be difficult to grasp this. Therefore, in the coming verses, Brahman is also described in an indirect way as Tatastha Lakshanam, just as the banks of the river guide the river. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar, for a very nice explanation of this verse. Swamiji says that these texts, these verses from the Prakarana Grantha, if understood, will help us to understand the original Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad, better. Many of us have studied the Taittiriya Upanishad, so these become much more easier when we have studied the Upanishad. But it does not matter whether you are studying Viveka Chudamani after studying Taittiriya Upanishad or studying Viveka Chudamani first and then the Taittiriya Upanishad. But they complement each other. And for all beginners, I will just say, initially it may sound as just words. And one day it is all the description of our true nature. And therefore, it is extremely delightful to see these beautiful adjectives which are talking nothing other than about ourselves. What is this Tatastha Lakshana? Tatastha, as he said, which banks define a river. Now, first we saw Brahman as the absolute entity. Now we see Brahman as the creator of the world, which will be explained to us by Dr. Vikram through Shruti, Yukti, and Anubhuti. Over to you, Dr. Vikram.
Hari Om. In this group of verses, Shankaracharya is describing the relationship between Brahman and the world, the relation that the world is Karyam and Brahman is the Karanam, is being elaborated. In Vedantic context, God is Brahman, the consciousness principle. So what is the relationship between world and Brahman? We have previously seen Brahman manifests its power through Maya Shakti. Maya Shakti has two components, Vikshepa and Avarna Shakti. Brahman, through Vikshepa Shakti, projects and creates everything. At the time of creation, Brahman projects Vikshepa Maya Shakti to create universe right from minute level to micro level, from atom and subatomic level to cosmic scale. Anything and everything with Nama, Rupa or characteristic is Maya. Swamiji gives example of dream state. Entire experience in a dream state is real till such time the spell of Nidra Shakti is broken and person wakes up. Similarly, entire creation can be considered as an illusion or a reflected reality of Brahman. This illusion is due to Avarna Shakti of Maya. When this illusion or Avarna Shakti is removed by consistent study of Vedanta under guidance of Guru, with Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, for such a person or a Jnani, everything is Brahman. Therefore, Brahman is Karyam, Brahman is Karanam and world is the Karyam. This central theme of Vedanta is highlighted and emphasized in our scriptures again and again. For example, in Kaivalya Upanishad, as in the next slide, Kaivalya Upanishad puts forth this beautifully, that everything evolves out of Brahman. Mai evam sakalam jatam, mai sarvam pratishtitam, mai sarvam layam yati, tad brahmadvam asmiham. In me alone, everything is born. In me alone, everything exists. And in me alone, everything gets dissolved. I am that non-dual Brahman. Me in Vedantic context is Brahman. The next question is, what is the relationship between Brahman and the world? We have studied in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7. Lord Krishna explains this beautifully with a necklace analogy. Mata parataram nanyat kaschid dhananjaya mai sarva idam proktam sutra manigana iva. There is nothing higher than myself, O Arjuna. Everything rests in me as the beads strung on the thread. Beads and thread both being Brahman. Now the third question is, how do we realize this Brahman? Now Ishavasya Upanishad states, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita ma grudha kaschit svidhanam. So God enshrines everything and is the supreme reality. One can rejoice him by renunciation. That's most important part here. Renunciation of what? Renunciation of ajnana. Once ajnana is removed, Jnani realizes Brahman. Now Adi Shankara has packed these three strong Vedantic concepts in this single verse. Now let's look at the verse. Sad Brahma Karyam Sakalam Sadaivam Sanmatramena Tato Anyad Nasti Astiti Yo Vyakti Na Tasya Moha Vinigrato Nidravat Prajalpaha. Sad Brahma Karyam Sakalam. Sakalam means everything. That is, everything has come or evolved from Brahman. Sad word is used here to denote form of Brahman which has an existence now. Sad Rupam Brahman. Sad Mantram Etat Tato Anya Nasti. Sad Mantram Etat, that is everything with existence, with different Nama. Rupa is Brahman. It is manifested out of Brahman. Like gold ornaments may have different shape and forms, but the basic substratum is gold. Tata Anya Nasti, there is no other Brahman. The Ekaha principle is highlighted. Without Brahman, nothing exists. The real world around us appears real due to the borrowed reality from the Brahman. Just as moon is lit with borrowed sunlight. Asti iti yah vyakti. Such a person who thinks or claims that world has a real existence, na tasya mohat vinigrahata, that person is still deluded and is not still out of moha, that is the spell of Maya, and his condition is like nidravata prajalpa, is like a dreamer who is under the influence of Nidra Shakti and imagines the dream world to be the only reality. So this verse gives a profound teaching by Shankaracharya of Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Vikram. Through the explanation of this verse of Adi Shankara, the extremely difficult concept of the Mithyatvam of the universe and Satyatvam of Brahman are sequentially ingrained into us. This will continue in the next presentation also by Vishwanath. Over to you, Vishwanath.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. First, let me recite the verse. Brahmai Vedam Vishwamityeva Vani Shrauti Brute Tarvanista Varistha Tasma Dedat Brahma Matram Hi Vishwam Nadishtanat Binnata Ropitasya. The main declaration of this verse is Brahman alone is the universe. Brahma eva idam Vishwam. This declaration we find in Mundaka Upanishad from Atharva Veda. Adi Shankaracharya ji says any knowledge should have the foundation of Shruti, Yukti and Anubhuti, Anubhava. So any teaching always should follow threefold forms. In our tradition, any darshana or philosophy should follow the three pillars of validity. Now, what are those three pillars of validity? They are the scriptural foundation, which is Shruti, the logic, which is Yukti, and our daily experience, which is Anubhava. Any philosophy which does not explain all the three is not complete philosophy, according to Adi Shankaracharya. In this shloka, he takes the support of a well-known mantra from Mundaka Upanishad. It comes in the second chapter, second section, last shloka. Brahmai Vedatram Vedam Ratham Purushasta Brahma, and so on, where the shloka says, immortal Brahman is everywhere, above, below, in front, back, right, left, and the entire world is Brahman. Swami Paramarthananda ji gives a beautiful explanation of a periodic table, example of a periodic table, where science has reduced the entire world into 118 elements such as aluminum, barium, hydrogen, oxygen, etc. After all the elements were further reduced to molecules, and the molecules reduced to atoms and subatomic particles, what remains at the end is an irreducible observer, that is Brahman, which is a profound revelation. As said earlier, Mundaka Upanishad says, Brahmaiva idam Vishwam. The whole universe is Brahman. This is a great statement as it negates the world itself. Adi Shankaracharya ji in his Pratasmarana shloka says, in the early morning, remember that I am the pure essence of Atman, which gives me the bliss of Satchidananda. In the early morning, I meditate upon the pure essence of Atman shining within my heart, which gives me bliss of Sachidananda, which is the supreme Hamsa and takes the mind to the state of Turiya, the fourth state of superconsciousness, which is a witness beyond the three states, dream, waking, and deep sleep. That Brahman, which is without any division, shines as I, and not this body, which is a collection of Panchabhuta, the five elements. Next slide, sir. In summary, the substratum of the whole universe is nothing but Brahman, because aropitasya adhisthanat bhinnata nasti, meaning a superimposed name cannot exist separate from the substance. Hari Om.
Thank you, Vishwanath, for a nice explanation of this verse. It is easy for the scriptures to declare that Brahman is the only reality and the world is not so real. And unless this is part of our experience, unless this is logically explained to us, it becomes very difficult to digest. So these are the points that Adi Shankara is going to give, not only giving us the logical truths, but he will also tell you through your own experience and through logic, how you will be able to come to terms with Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Now he will argue what Nilimaya will say, how there can be only one reality and we cannot have two realities. Over to you, Nilimaya.
Jai Gurudev. There are three cardinal principles in Vedanta: Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Napara. We have seen the answers for all the 7 questions till 60th verse, which was just launching pads, but in extension to 7th question, Atma Anatma Viveka, to gain more clarity on this topic, 3 more parts were introduced, through which real central teaching, Tatparya, I am the truth of the universe, is understood. First part deals with Tvam Padartha, the essential nature of individual, from verses 61 to 65. In second part deals with the Tat Padartha, essential nature of universe or Brahman, in verses 66 to 73. There are 2 aspects in Tat Padartha. One is Brahma Satyam, which we have seen 66 and 67 verses. We have already in the second aspect, which is Jagan Mithya. We are seeing it now, 68 to 73 verses. Third part, we are going to see in coming classes, which deals with Asipadartha, called as Mahavakya. Atma, Brahman, Aikyam, Tattvamasi. In other words, Jiva Brahmaiva Napara, in verses 74 to 82. These 3 parts are the essence of all the Upanishads. This knowledge is going to give us the liberation. Our present 70th verse deals with Jagan Mithya topic. In case if Jagat is real, what are the consequences that are going to be, is discussed in this verse. Let us see the verse. Satyam yadi syat jagate tadatmanaha anantatvahanir nigama pramanata asatyavaditvam apishitu syat naitatrayam sadhuhitam mahatmanam. If the world is real, there will be 3 problems or doshas. First dosha is Atma Anantatva Hani. Atma, which is infinite, Advaitam, becomes Dvaitam, finite. Brahma or Atma becomes space, time, object-wise limitation. Brahma also will have a date of birth and date of expiry. Atma becomes mortal, finite, perishing entity. When the world is real, Shruti statement gets falsified, which is Satyam Jnanam Anantam, Taittiriya Upanishad. When both Brahman and Jagat are real, their nature is finite and changing, then who knows the changing nature of the universe? And Atma, it is a logical fallacy. ETU, experience, transaction, utility, cannot be a valid means for knowing the truth. It's not right to just depend upon senses, appearances to know the truth. Dreamer, upon waking up, finds that they were all his mental projections. Also, if Jagat is Satya, there will be no Punya Papa, no Purushartha, no Karma, no Sadhana, no Moksha Icha, as he becomes mortal and going to perish. If world is real, it will be called Artha Jani Nyaya, If half sentence in Veda is true and half of it is not true, it's like saying egg is half hatched and half cooked. Second dosha, what we see is Nigama Apramanata. As eyes are pramana for forms and ears for sounds, so too Vedas are pramana for Brahman, who is eternal, immutable. If world is real, Brahman becomes limited by world. All Vedic statements are falsified. All 6 schools accept Veda as pramana, and the Veda becomes invalid if world is real. Senses are limited in their purview for the true knowledge. Shankaracharya gives many examples to show how appearances mislead the human beings. It's like blue sky, stationary earth, sun appearing to go around the earth, and stars appearing to be little. In Mundaka verse 2 to 11, Brahme Vedam Vishwamidam Varistam. Universe is Brahman alone. Like gold and bangle are just differ in name, form and function, but they are one and the same. Shankaracharya in Chandogya Sastadhyaya, Brahman is defined as Sadaiva Soma Idamagra Asit, Ekameva Dvitiyam. 6 to 1. He says that Brahma alone is unique one, without a second, without varieties of names, forms, and functions. If the world is real, first chapter in the 7th mantra, Mandukya Upanishad, Brahman was revealed as the Turiya Atma. In this mantra, 2 things were highlighted. One is Prapanchopashamanam, free from the world, and the second is Advaitam, non-dual. Mandukya Karika, Vaitatya Prakanam, 2nd chapter, and also in Brahma Sutra, 2nd, 14th to 20th verses, all their logical analysis and establishment of unreality of the world gets falsified. And the third dosha, which we see is Ishitu Asatyavadittu. Asatyavadi means a liar who utters falsehood to mislead others and to gain personal benefit, done by some people all the time. But Bhagavan also falls in that category. Lord is the source of Vedas. Lord, words become wrong. He becomes liar. Wise men do not accept these 3 conclusions. Mahatma, who is outgrown from selfish to selfless attitude, who is Astikavada, they have a strong faith in Vedas and Brahman. When the world is real, world and Brahman, we have 2 realities. Then as said in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 1:4-2, Dvitiya Dvai Bhayam Bhavati. Then there will be no progress in life. Life will be continuous anxiety. A wise man will say moonlight, but in his mind, he clearly knows that he is experiencing sunlight on the moon. So too, world, though seemingly existent, wise see Brahman in and through all the names and forms. Jai Guru.
Thank you, Nilima. This is an important verse where Adi Shankara uses strong logic to say why only one reality or why Advaita can be the only truth. If God is not infinite, then it is not God. That means if there is some other reality, that other reality, which is the world or all of us, can limit God. The scriptures will become untrue. And that is why in this one particular verse itself, so much of logic and so much of Shruti support is given to say that there can be only one truth, which is Brahma Satyam, and everything else that which exists has to be of a lower order of reality. Now, is this world that we see real or not so real? Neeta, please explain this verse to us.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Ishvaro vastu tatvajnah na chaham teshvavastitaha na cha matstani bhutani iti evam eva vyachaklapat. What is being presented here is the unreality of the world, with the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutra as proofs. Brahman alone exists. It is the absolute reality, and this world, Jagat, is mithya. What is mithya now? In dim light, we see the rope as snake. But when there is bright light, we discover that there was never a snake. It was always a rope. It was just an appearance of a snake, an illusion. We had the experience of a snake, even sweated a bit, but in reality, the snake was not there. It was just a superimposition on the rope. Now the Shastras tell us the world is also just a superimposition on the Brahman. However, to accept the world we experience so solidly, transact with day in and day out, to accept that just as an appearance is hard to swallow. But if we accept the world to be true, we will face three problems. Nilima explained that in the previous verse. There will be two realities, therefore, Brahman will no longer be infinite. Shruti Pramanam, the Vedas, will become invalid. And the third dosha is Bhagavad Gita will become invalid. The Lord will be considered to give us incorrect knowledge. The third dosha is being nullified in this verse. Adi Shankaracharya ji gives the Bhagavad Gita as evidence for Jagat Mithyatvam. Ishwaro vastu tatvagnaha iti evam eva vyachaklapit. Ishwaro refers to Lord Shri Krishna. Vastu tatvagnaha, Lord Krishna knows the reality of all things. Vyachaklapit means supported, taught, stated. Thus, in this manner, iti evam eva. So, Lord Krishna, the knower of everything, has supported the view that Jagat is mithya. How and where? In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 4, Lord Krishna says, Sarva Bhutani Mastani, which means the whole world of living beings and things rest in me. I support the universe. And then he says, Na chaham teshva vastitaha, but I am not supported by the world. This is easy to accept. The Lord is the Jagat Adhara, Brahman is ever the supporter, but never the supported. It is the cause, but never the effect. But then immediately in verse 5 of chapter 9, the first line, Krishna says, Sarva Bhutani Namastani. In fact, the world of beings do not rest in me at all. This is contradicting to what Krishna just said in the previous verse. Slide 3. We know Krishna is the Jagat Guru, the intelligent Lord. He will not contradict. Therefore, we have to accommodate and validate both these statements. First, Krishna says the world is there. Then Krishna says the world is not there. The only way this is possible is the world is seemingly there. From this body standpoint, the world is existent. But from the Brahman standpoint, the world is not existent. Next slide. By accepting the universe and then rejecting the universe, Krishna reiterates, the world we perceive and experience exists only at the Vyavaharika level. It is a relative reality like the dream. It has borrowed existence. On spiritual awakening, we recognize the Paramarthika level, Satyam. Only Brahman has independent existence. It is the absolute reality. It alone appears as the world, just like the snake. The world is experientially available, but factually not there. I pray we all understand this. Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, Neeta. That was a nice explanation based from the Bhagavad Gita to say how to be able to come to terms that the world is existent and the world is not existent, which means that from our bodily identification, or when you identify with your sense organs, the world becomes absolutely real. But through Guru Shastra Upadesha, when you realize that the body is only an instrument and the one who's using the instrument, the Atma, is the higher order of reality, immediately the world now becomes of a lower order of reality when you come into the Paramarthika state. The last verse for today's class is by Dr. Sachin, and we will have further reasoning to say why the world is just like a dream. Over to you, Dr. Sachin.
Hari Om. Om Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse is Yadi Satyam Bhaved Vishwam Sushuptam Upalabdhitam Yanno Upalabdhate Kinchidato Asat Swapnam Avat Vrishra. So here Shankaracharya gives another supportive or experiential support to the point that the world is not real. To understand this concept, we will take a simple example of fire and heat. When we boil water on fire, we all know that the heat is the intrinsic property of fire and it is borrowed by the water which is boiling. Once the fire is taken away, the water will lose the heat and will eventually cool. The next slide. Similarly, one should understand that we are what we are due to the Chaitanya Tattvam in all of us, in all the three states of consciousness that we have. That consciousness is original consciousness, permanent and sentient. And anything other than that is just the Nama and Rupa. It's not the Brahman. It's unreal, both the Jiva and Jagat and their interaction. The next slide. To understand Brahman, let us understand the relationship with him. Let us understand what is the Karya and Karana Sambandha, the relationship with the Jiva and Jagat by these few examples. Let us take this evergreen example of gold and ornament. We all know that when we are experiencing the bangle or rings or any ornament for that matter, we are actually experiencing the different forms of gold alone. So we are aware that any ornament is nothing but gold. In the next slide, similarly, we also know that every wave in the ocean is nothing but the water. And as in the next slide, we know that every pottery is nothing but the clay. So coming to Brahman, we extend this to Brahman in the next slide. Brahman is Karana, the cause, and Jagat is the effect, the Karya. So the corollary also is true. What is the corollary here? That the effect and cause cannot be separated as the gold from the ornament and the water from the wave. Thus, this should be firmly understood by us that whatever we see, hear, feel in these three worlds is due to the Karanam, the Brahman. And in all the three states, Brahman is constant, permanent, and original. It's the only Satyam. Every other experiences or experience which we have borrowed is from the existence from the Brahman, the Karanam. And thus, the interactions in this world around us is seemingly real. And we all know this seemingly real world exists only till we are away from the understanding of our higher self. As in the next slide, we see once we are near the mirage, we know that there was no real water. It was just an illusion. Similarly, we all would agree there are no three states for a jnani. It's only the illusion which he has to experience due to his nama and rupa in this birth. In the next slide, sir. Coming back to this verse proper, are our dreams real? Yes, of course it's real. We can feel likes and dislikes. One can also have fear, and that can be palpable even when one gets awake after his dream. The dream exists in the mind of the sleeper. Once he is awake, all the raga, dvesha, kama, krodha vanishes. This is called vyabhichara swarupa. That which appears and disappears, that which is illusionary is not real. In the next slide. Now, what happens in the deep sleep state? Here, only consciousness exists. Now, you would ask, how do you know that only consciousness exists? So it's very simple. When one gets up from a deep sleep, he has the experience and he knows that he slept well. He doesn't remember any of the events in that sleep state, as there was no prapancha at all, no raga dvesha. Forget about the materialistic things in the deep sleep. So one is absolutely in a bliss when he is completely aware or very much in the conscious state as in the deep sleep state. Coming to the next slides. In this verse, it said that Yati Satyam Bhavet Sushupti Upalabdhate. But in reality, there is not even ounce of prapancha. It's pure bliss in that state. Na kinchit upalabdhate. The three states are not available in Sushupti state. So whatever is seen and felt in the other two avastha, the next slide, that is the Jagrat and Swapna avastha, it is a Mishrita. It is only illusionary. It's not real. So in the last slide, we have come to, as we have already proven logically, that which appears and disappears is not true. Both the Jiva and Jagat and the interaction between themselves is untrue. What is true is the sentient, ever permanent Chaitanya Tattvam, the Brahman. It's the only reality. That is what Bhagavan Shankaracharya logically proves in this verse. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin, for a good presentation. To re-emphasize through various examples, through logical reasoning, to say why Brahman is the only Satyam and the world has a dependent existence. Brahman is the cause and the world is the effect. With that, we come to the end of the 6 verses that we have selected for class today. I know this is a little heavy for us to understand, a lot of words, but as I said, through repeated Shravanam, through the grace of the Guru, through the grace of God, these will not be just words, but something that we shall be able to understand. We now go into a little story for meditation. And fortunately for us, this story does not have any words at all, because it is all about Zen and how Zen came into being. Gautama Buddha was a prolific speaker. For 40 years, he spoke every day of his life. He's one of the most prolific speakers. So from the time of his enlightenment at the age of 35 until his death at the age of 80, for about 45 years of his ministry, he has been communicating to small groups and to large groups. It so happened on a particular day, he had a large audience assembled in front of him. He came as usual, sat on the seat which was prepared for him. He had a flower in his hand. He kept watching that flower. He did not utter a word. Minutes passed, an hour passed, 80 minutes, 90 minutes, 1.5 hours of still but a very pregnant silence. No word from the master, no word from anybody. And after more than 90 minutes, one of his students who was unheard till then, Mahakashyapa, gives a loud laughter. Buddha calls him and gives the flower to him, and he makes this statement. He says, whatever I could communicate through words, I have communicated to you. Whatever I cannot communicate through words, but still it is a communication from the master to the student. I give this to you, Mahakashyapa. That was the symbolic birth of Zen. And Zen is one of the highest forms of spiritual traditions, which is an offshoot of Buddhism, which has no scripture, which has no text. There is no teaching. So the whole teaching through master and student is through a non-verbal communication. You will remember that in the Dhyana shlokas of Sri Dakshinamurti, you have one of them. It says, Chitram Vatataro Mule Vriddha Shishya Guru Yuva Gurustu Maunam Vyakhyanam Shishya Tu Chinna Samshaya. It is something so strange to see this sort of satsang, where the teacher is sitting in silence and all the doubts of the students have been cleared through a form of a non-verbal communication. And that is the glory of Zen. And for years, people spend with a Zen master. They live and see how he lives, how he walks, how he talks in pure awareness. And most of the time in silence. And they understand, and the whole teaching is through non-verbal. It is said that the moment of the death of a Zen master is sometimes one of the greatest moments of transmission. And whenever they hear a great Zen master is dying, all his students assemble around him and just silently be with the teacher as the last moments come. Suddenly, one of his students realized that this master loved a particular cake from a certain bakery in Tokyo. He went there and offered this to the Guru, and all the students watched the Zen master delightfully enjoying that piece of cake. There was no word. And then finally, as they were waiting for the last word from the master, just before he gave his last breath, and these were the words of the Zen master. And the last words were, he says, "My God," he said, "this cake is delicious." That is how Zen masters communicate. Hari Om. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, friends. We have come to the end of today's class. Next week, we'll study a few more verses of Viveka Chudamani. Let's meet on Friday, same time, for study of Bhaja Govindam. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. local time. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.